So, you've been warned, you've been told to have your 72-hour plan ready. Have you got it ready? If not, why not? You need to. Hi, this is Everyday Prepper. Welcome back to the channel. I've come across some interesting news this morning about some secret plans. Secret, not so secret maybe, because it's all over the media, all over some media anyway, about some secret plans that the government has to put us literally on a prepare for war footing with Russia. All seems rather urgent. Now, I know when I did a video when we talked about the 72-hour plan that was encouraged by a security expert or analyst, we don't know who, was saying that we need to prepare in the UK with 72 hours worth of supplies. I know a lot of you were commenting saying it's just fear-mongering and everything else. If you're a prepper, you'd have that stuff squared away anyway. But not to be fear-mongering or anything like that. This article, these couple of articles that I've just read that I'm going to go into in a bit more detail and give you some links, etc., just make it all a little bit more urgent. So I think, regardless of whether you feel that the 72-hour stuff all over Europe and everything else was fear-mongering, there are some what looks like secret plans for the government where they are literally preparing for war or an attack by Russia. Now, again, that could be more fear-mongering, but it looks to me like, they've said, we told you about your 72-hour plan, get on with it, because we're making our own plans. And I'll tell you what the plans are. So we've got Starmer secretly prepares, is the title, secretly prepares for a Russian attack after threats by the Kremlin. So we've been threatened by the Kremlin over the years, but there's something called a Homeland defense plan. And this has not been updated for 20 years. 2005 was the last time it was updated, and it said it would see the UK put on a war footing if attacked by a peer enemy such as the Kremlin. Now, I did mention that the 72-hour, the British security expert or analyst that suggested that Brits should prepare a 72-hour plan, or a 72-hour survival pack, if you like, was saying specifically about attacks by the Kremlin or attacks by Russia on our infrastructure, like undersea cables, gas supplies, and that kind of stuff. And I know that I did receive a lot of comments saying that wouldn't necessarily lead to war. Now, I thought that any attack on our infrastructure, if we knew who it was, that's an attack on a NATO country, which we are still. And NATO still exists, kind of. So that would be something to trigger Article 5. I would have thought. Some of you said no, not necessarily. I'm not sure how that wouldn't, but anyway, what this will do is, by the looks of it, would actually make it at war with Russia if we knew that they had attacked our infrastructure. That's what I'm reading into this as. But it says plans include evacuating members of the royal family, public service broadcasts, and stockpiling of food. Moscow's repeatedly threatened the UK with attack over its support for Ukraine and has ramped up cyber attacks against Britain since its invasion. Ministers are understood to have concerns about how the UK would respond to military strikes with conventional and nuclear missiles, as well as to infrastructure like underwater cables, gas terminals, and transport hubs. I'll put a link to all of this info in the description, but it was saying that basically if we were attacked the same as Ukraine were attacked, which we probably already know by now, that we wouldn't be capable of stopping them like Ukraine have managed. I mean, basically we've given all our weapons to Ukraine, haven't we? And all our money. Likewise for the US, so that's probably how they fended them off. They're talking about an Iron Dome system. Obviously that's going to take time to build up, similar to what Israel have. So yeah, it talks about secret plans. It doesn't go into massive detail about it. Food and building supplies would be stockpiled, and the BBC would be instructed to make public broadcast announcements on how to shelter from missiles. Well, I think that's probably already in place, but they're making it a bit more specific. They'd send all the royal family out to their yacht, so they'd be living a life of Riley. And everyone else goes to their bunkers. And there's that. So that was this morning. So there was a news article this morning in the Express Now, I don't give a lot of credence to these newspapers, and the reports about the 72-hour stuff again didn't go mainstream, but it seems a bit weird timing. This is all around VE Day. Everyone's looking up in the sky at all the lovely red arrows going over and all that sort of stuff going on. While you're distracted, we'll secretly just make sure that we're all right, Jack, in case Russia attacks. But this article was today, and then there was another one yesterday saying UK preparing blueprint for direct attack from Russia as defence fears soar. So we got they're modelling a scenario involving simultaneous attacks, cyber attacks and missile strikes on British infrastructure. It's overhauling its Cold War era defence preps. Follows a series of Kremlin threats. Said that the security officials admit Britain would be outgunned by Russia. Well, we know that. We've been told that many times now. So yeah, they're modelling lots of scenarios. A risk assessment published in January warned that such an attack was likely to result in civilian fatalities as well as members of the emergency services, whilst also causing serious economic damage. It's always about the money, isn't it? Disruption to essential services. They also said that if we had a strike on one of our reactors, it could release radioactive material. You don't say. And trigger significant, prolonged, long-term security, health, environmental and economic impacts. I wonder if that's where they slipped into that 72-hour pack. You just want to make sure you've got sort of plenty of food tucked away, a bit of water. I'll pop some iodine tablets in there. Didn't tell you anything else about it. It's not your everyday stuff. And when I mentioned that, a lot of people sort of asking, where the hell did you get these from? I managed to get some online. They're fairly cheap, which is the potassium iodide tablets is what you want. Make sure you know how to use them and when, because there was none of that in this 72-hour advice, which is a bit odd. Well, it's just lax, isn't it? Like a lot of this advice is. So yeah, thought it was quite interesting. I'll pop the links in there. Just thought I'd do, make a very quick video about it because I've not seen it reported anywhere else. I've not seen it covered anywhere else. Just reiterates here, the new strategy is also expected to include protocols for moving ministers and the royal family to secure locations. During the Cold War, plans included Prime Minister going to a bunker in the Cotswolds, very nice, and the relocating of the royal family aboard the royal yacht. But yeah, that's it's just a bit more urgency, is what I'm saying. Again, it would divide the UK into 12 zones, each controlled by a minister, a military official, a judge, a chief constable with sweeping emergency powers. Public service announcements would be broadcast. Artworks could be moved to Scotland for safekeeping. Why Scotland? What's safe about Scotland? The planning comes, isn't that where all our nuclear subs and stuff up there are, major viable attack location, I thought. Then we've got Labour's strategic defence review due to be published later this year. And then the other thing at the end of the article, or towards the end of the article, says, despite growing talk of diplomacy, including peace efforts spearheaded by Trump, Russia was last month officially designated a national security threat by the UK for the first time, a clear signal that Whitehall may be preparing for the worst. So it makes you wonder. It's made me wonder anyway. Make sure you got your stuff squared away, and then you can't moan about it if something happens. Have your 72-hour plan and your supplies ready, at least 72 hours. Obviously, you want more than that, a lot more than that. Because if we were to be attacked directly by Russia, it's going to be pretty grim. Very, very grim. Not something to be looking forward to at all. I look forward to a power cut for maybe 3 or 4 days just to try out my preps and stuff. Hope it wouldn't go on longer than that, obviously. And I think a lot of preppers wouldn't mind, a little bit of a grid down situation for a couple of days because it'd be a bit of fun, really. I say that very tongue-in-cheek, all right? Don't jump on me for that. It's just kind of thing we say, we do all these preps and sometimes it feels like it's for nothing. But this looks a little bit more serious. So it's really just a heads up. That's specifically, it's a bit more specific, because before it was like, get your plan together for 72 hours because we don't really know what it's all about. We're not going to tell you either. But this looks very specific, and it's not been published on mainstream, obviously not to panic people. I'm not here to panic people either. And again, if you've got your preps squared away, all your essentials at least, so meds, get your iodine tablets, get your food, your water, your means, alternative means of cooking, basically camping. How would you camp in your house if you had no shops nearby? You're camping in your house for a few weeks. Just imagine that, and then you'll be pretty much there. So yeah, thought I'd just give you a heads up, and I will see you hopefully very soon. Thanks for watching.